हेलो डियर स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल। आज चलो गोटे बढ़िया क्वेश्चन जोटा कि इम्पोर्टाट फॉर योर एग्जामिनेशन जे प्रीवियस आमर जो उत्कल यूनिवर्सिटी थर्ड सेमिस्टर परीक्षा होता से पढ़ी कंटिन्यूअस एंड कम्प्रिहेंसिव इवैल्यूएशन किंतु एथरक तुम मान इम्पोर्टाट हो कौन ना एक्सप्लेन जो रही क्राइटेरियन रेफरेंस टेस्ट एंड नॉर्म रेफरेंस टेस्ट एंड व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन क्राइटेरियन रेफरेंस टेस्ट एंड नॉर्म रेफरेंस टेस्ट। ताहले चलो डिस्कसन करवा। नॉर्म रेफरेंस टेस्ट कहले कौन बुझ यार मेरिट्स डिमेरिट्स एवं क्राइटेरियन रेफरेंस टेस्ट कहले कौन यार मेरिट्स एंड डिमेरिट्स ये तुमने पे डिफरेन्सेस निजे ही लिखिपर। तेणु आरंभ रू भिडटी को भल भाव देख शेष पर्यंत एवं जो मैंने मो चैनल नुआ अच्छ से रिक्वेस्ट चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करदे। बहुत पिला चैनल देखुच वीडियो गुड़िक देखुच किंतु सब्सक्राइब करूना, तेणु से मोर अनुरोध जे वीडियो को सब्सक्राइब चैनल टी को सब्सक्राइब करदेव और वीडियो को नोट प्रिपेयर करदेव और डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिंक दे दूँगी पीडीएफ लिंक पीडीएफ डाउनलोड करके नोट प्रिपेयर करदेव। ताले एक्सप्लेन नॉर्म रेफरेंस असेसमेंट इट्स यूजेस एडवांटेजेस एंड लिमिटेशंस। तो आंसर हो कौन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन असेसमेंट एंड इवैल्यूएशन प्रोसीजर evaluation can be classified into two types such as a norm referenced evaluation and criterion referenced evaluation. Let's now first discuss what is norm referenced evaluation or assessment. Norm referenced assessment is designed to measure the performance of an individual which is interpretable in terms of individual's relative position in some known group. जेतबले गोटे रिलेटिव पोजिशन कहले पिलाटार संपर्क थाए अलग ग्रुप रे सेतबले नॉर्म रेफरेंस टेस्ट करा जायथाय बा असेसमेंट करा जायथाय। तेणु एई लाइन टाइम मन रखिथबो जे which is interpretable in terms of an individual's relative position in some known group. Then norm referenced assessment is a process which yields an estimate of the position of the tested individual in a predefined population with respect to the trait being measured. The estimate is derived from the population. This type of a test identifies whether the test taker performed better or worse than other test takers, nor whether the test taker knows either more or less material than is necessary for a given purpose. In other words, the term normative assessment refers to the process of comparing one test taker to his or his peers. Generally, the entrance examination conducted by different institutions and organizations like AIPMT, JEE, etc. are norm referenced assessment. एटा नॉन हो जाइए एटा होची norm referenced evaluation by assessment where we compare individual student performance to the performance of a normative sample. Test takers cannot fail a norm reference test because each test taker receives a score that compares the individual to others that have taken the test. Let's now discuss what are the uses of norm referenced assessment or evaluation. Uses of norm referenced assessment. First point is norm referenced assessment is made to determine a young child's readiness for preschool or kindergarten. For preschool or kindergarten, this test may be designed to measure oral language ability, visual motor skills and cognitive and social development. Second point is it is used to evaluate basic reading, writing and mathematical skills. These test results may be used for a wide variety of purposes such as measuring academic progress, making course assignments, determining readiness for a grade promotion or identifying the need for additional academic support. Next point is it is used to identify specific learning difficulties such as autism, dyslexia or non-verbal learning disability or on to determine eligibility for social education services. Next is to make program eligibility or institutional admission decisions. So these are the uses of a norm referenced assessment. Next, let us now discuss what are the advantages of a norm referenced assessment. The advantages of a norm referenced assessment can be described as under. The first point is Norm reference tests are relatively expensive to develop, easy to administer and score. As long as the results are used side other measure of performance, they provide valuable information about student learning. Second point is the quality of a norm reference assessment is high. It's because they are developed by experts, pilot and revised before piloted and revised before they are used with students. It is dependable and stable for what they are designed to measure. Third advantage is norm reference test can help to differentiate students and identify those who may have specific educational needs or deficits that require specialized assistance on learning environments. Next point is norm reference tests are an objective evaluation method that decrease bias or favoritism making educational decisions. If there are limited place in a gifted and talented program, for example, one transparent way to make decisions is to give every student the same test and to allow the highest scoring students to gain entry. Let's now discuss what are the limitations of a norm reference test. The limitations of a norm reference test can be summarized as follows. First point is testing experts have warned that major educational decisions should not be taken on the basis of a single test score. But sometimes norm reference scores are misused in making critical educational decisions like a grade, class promotion or retention. Second point is norm reference assessment encourage teachers to view students in terms of a normal probability curve. It may lead them lower academic expectations for certain group of students, particularly students with special need and a minority group. Next देखिबा the third advantage is generally multiple choice tests are dominantly used in norm reference format. These tests better measures remembered facts than the complex form of thinking. So norm reference tests promote rote learning. This is printing mistake, rote learning and memorization, ROTE, rote learning and memorization. Next point is excess trust on norm reference assessments can lead to advertent discrimination against minority groups and low income student population because these students tend to face more educational obstacles than the students from a high income group. Next point is over dependent on norm reference assessment under values important achievement skills and abilities in favor of the more narrow set of skills measured by the test. For example, entrance tests like AIPMT, JEE, IQ test, auditions for TV shows and theatre show, interviews and tests conducted for jobs. This is all about your norm reference test. Let's now discuss what is criterion reference evaluation or assessment. Give its uses, advantages, limitations with examples. So, criterion reference test is one that provides translating test scores into a statement about the behavior to be expected of a person with that score or their relationship to a specified subject matter. In other words, when the evaluation is concerned with the performance of the individual in terms of what he can do or the behavior we can demonstrate is called as a criterion reference evaluation. Most of these teacher-made tests used in classroom can be considered as a criterion reference test. The main objective of this assessment is simply to see whether the student has learned the material. The criterion reference assessment has a cut score of the student's score exceeds pass or otherwise fail. This is fail, but in true sense, criterion is not the cut score. It is a domain of subject matter that the test is designed to assess. For example, in our summative test, we fix 30% as pass marks for students. Let's now discuss what are the uses of a criterion reference evaluation or assessment. The uses of a criterion reference evaluation can be described as under. The first point is criterion referenced assessment. This is referenced, printing mistake. The criterion referenced assessment is used to determine whether the students have learned expected knowledge and skills. If the criterion reference tests are used to make the decision about grade, promotion, or diploma eligibility, they would be considered high stakes tests. Second point is to evaluate the effectiveness of a course, academic program, or learning experience by using pre-test and post-test to measure learning progress over the duration of the instructional period. The third point is to evaluate the effectiveness of teachers by factorizing test results into job performance evaluations. Next is to measure progress toward the goals and objectives described in an individualized education plan for students with disabilities. Next point is to determine if a student or a teacher is qualified to get a certificate or not. Next is to measure the academic achievement of students in a given state, usually for the purpose of comparing academic performance among schools or districts. Let's now discuss what are the advantages of criterion reference test. The advantages of a criterion reference test can be summarized as under. The first point is criterion reference assessment is better suited to measure learning progress than norm reference assessment. It gives educators information which they can use to improve teaching and school performance. Second thing is this test is fairer to students than norm reference test because they do not compare the relative performance of students, rather they evaluate achievement against a common and consistently applied set of criteria. The third point is it applies the same learning standards to all students which can hold underprivileged or disadvantaged students to the same high expectation as other students. The fourth point is this test can be constructed with open-ended questions and tasks that requires students to use higher level cognitive skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, reasoning, etc. Let's now discuss what are the limitations of criterion reference test. The limitations of criterion reference assessment or evaluation can be summarized as under. The first point is this assessment is only as accurate as the learning standards upon which it is based. If the standards are vaguely awarded or either they are too easy or for difficult for the students, the associated test results will be reflected upon the standard.